In this video, I want to answer the question, what is a user story map? And how do we create one? A user story map allows users, developers, and other stakeholders to visualize a whole product and its development process. It breaks down the work that we require to create the whole product into individual chunks called user stories. Or, to put it another way, it organizes your user stories into a logical sequence that creates a model for the whole product or service that you're building. User story mapping is a visual method used in Agile software development that allows users and development teams to create a model of the product they're creating in terms of its functionality. It organizes user stories along with a short description of their functionality into a visual representation of the user journey through the product or service. Each user story represents a different capability, and the story map helps us to prioritize among those different capabilities. So, a user story map allows the team to describe all of the product's potential capabilities without losing sight of the big picture of how they all fit together. User story maps are usually presented like this. At the top, the themes or user activities represent the highest level of the things that users will need to do. Below these are the key steps in the process flow through the product or the service, arranged in a horizontal row. These are the major tasks that the user will need to perform, arranged in the sequence in which they'll need to perform them. In the language of user stories, these are big stories that we call epics. The sequence of epics is sometimes called the walking skeleton, and it represents a summary of the entire product, the flow of the process through it. Now, an epic is too much work to achieve in a single iteration or sprint or even release. So, epics are broken down into smaller user stories represented below their epic. These put the flesh onto the walking skeleton. Down the vertical axis, we sequence these user stories in the order of the priority that they have for us, and therefore the sequence in which we'll develop them. Those nearer the top we'll develop first, and those at the bottom we'll develop last, if at all. The priority can represent how fundamental they are, how much value they give, how complex they will be to develop, or how sophisticated the development methods and processes are likely to be when we come to develop them. So, why do we need user story maps? Well, user story maps help users and developers share a complete understanding of the whole user experience. But as well as being a communication tool, critically, they provide two other things. They are a tool to help prioritize features and functionality, and they are also a way to stop us trying to prioritize purely on the basis of value delivered, which can of course lead to us delivering high-value items, but not the user stories on which they are dependent, meaning that we end up with a product that doesn't work. They allow us to see the fundamental functionality on which other capabilities depend, and therefore to prioritize them and build them first. So, if that's why we need them, what are the other benefits we get from using user story maps? The first is communication and alignment. User story maps are clear, they're unambiguous, and critically, they're available to everyone. They can create a shared understanding at many different levels of detail at the same time. Number two is status reporting. Once we have a story map, we can use labels, stickers, or simply writing on the information to show the progress against each user story in the story map. This creates a very simple visual representation of status or progress. Number three, they're a visual aid. They don't just aid communication, they also help with thinking, planning, problem solving, prioritization, and decision making. Number 4 is about product backlog. The prioritization process, working with the story map, supports the creation and grooming of your product backlog. And of course, it also helps to determine what our priorities are for drawdown to the next iteration or sprint. Finally, number 5 is dependencies. By representing user stories as a flow, a sequence of activities, it enables us to understand the dependencies, how one user story is dependent upon the capabilities of another to make it work. And by highlighting dependencies, story maps are also an important part of risk management. With all this goodness, you may be wondering, where do story maps come from? The idea for user story maps originated with Jeff Patton, who wrote an article but didn't name them user story maps in 2005. The article was called "It's All in How You Slice It," and I'll put a link in the description. Patton continued developing this idea, and in 2008, he illustrated it in detail on his blog in an article called "The New User Story Backlog is a Map." I'll link to that too. Finally, in 2014, he wrote the inevitable book, along with Peter Economy. The book is called User Story Mapping: Discover the Whole Story, Build the Right Product, and yes, you guessed it, link in the description. So, I bet you're now thinking, how do I create a user story map? Well, let me take you through the basic steps. First, you need to gather a team. Get together some of your users, developers, user experience experts, design experts, and any other stakeholders who have an input into creating your story map. Then, follow a simple process based on these 7 steps. Step 1. Establish the product. This first step is simple. Just establish what your users need to be able to do and why. Step 2. Define the product outline. Start by identifying the key steps in the product or service that you'll be creating. This, of course, will form the walking skeleton of epics. Each epic will be a heading for the story map you're creating. You may also want to group these epics into themes. Now, arrange them horizontally across the top of your map. You can do this in person using sticky notes and a board, or you can do it remotely using collaboration tools. The whole team should work together on creating the map, and it's often useful to assign a facilitator to make sure that everybody gets their say and everybody's opinions are listened to and respected before the team makes a decision about how to place a user story. Step 3. Develop the capabilities under each of the epics. Under each epic, place the user stories that make it up. Now, these user stories don't have to be fully developed or prioritized at this stage. That can come later. Frame your user stories in terms of what the user will be doing at this step. This is a better way to frame user stories than a description of how the product is performing or what the technology is doing. In my video on epics and user stories, I gave a very simple model for describing a user story. As a type of user, I want to be able to action so that benefit. Step 4. Prioritize user stories. Keep growing your story map until you have enough user stories on it to start to prioritize them and to identify dependencies among the user stories. Now you can start to prioritize your user stories in the vertical dimension. Under each epic, sort out your user stories with the highest priority ones at the top, all the way down to the lowest priority user stories at the bottom. Once you've done this, you can divide across this vertical dimension to create a number of releases, with some user stories under each epic in each release, and the first release, the highest priority, being the minimum viable product, or MVP. If you're not familiar with the term minimum viable product, then take a look at our video. Step 5 is to scrutinize your work. Now you have a good visualization of the whole product development process, it's time to look at it with care to identify things like dependencies, bottlenecks, gaps, overlaps, missing information, and alternative options. Each of these is a risk, so finding them before you start any development work will de-risk your project massively. It will avoid the waste of potential rework and possibly improve the usability and quality of the final product that you deliver. Step 6. Plan releases and sprints or iterations. Now's the time to turn your story map into a work plan. With user stories prioritized top-down, you can immediately see those user stories which will deliver either foundational capabilities or the high-value capabilities that you'll want to develop early. Group these into product releases and then into provisional iterations or sprints. Step 7. Publish your user story map. Finally, you're ready to share your user story map with the full development team and a wider range of stakeholders. But remember, user story mapping, like every agile process, is iterative. Once you've created it, the team needs to maintain it and develop it to accommodate changing information and new understanding of the work you're doing. Your user story map needs to be a living document that you can use to track progress, that you can modify and add to and take away from. It's a tool that you can use to help you groom your product backlog and to determine the drawdowns that you'll make to create each iteration or sprint backlog as you move through the product development process. Finally, I'd like to end with a few tips about using user story maps. First, you need to be absolutely clear about who your users and customers are. And of course, once you know who they are, you need to engage them in the story mapping process. Second, you need to balance the amount of detail you put into your story map to ensure that you have enough detail to work from, but not so much detail that it hides the big picture and makes it hard for people to understand the whole process. What you don't want is for the story to be lost in the detail and for your customers or stakeholders to become confused. Remember that many of your stakeholders are likely to be less familiar with a user story map than you are. Next, you need to think about the scale of your user story map. If you try to illustrate a massive product on a single user story map, then you might find it difficult to get the level of detail just right. So, break your user story map into smaller maps representing manageable chunks of the product to make it much easier to get the level of detail on each one correct. Next, think about the level of formality and technicality in the way that you describe the elements of your user story map. The basic rule is to keep the style simple and the language plain so that every user, every stakeholder, every customer can easily understand your story map. If you need to use jargon or acronyms, make sure that you explain what each term means. Keep the technical development details off your user story map, and if you need to run a parallel document to explain greater detail parts of the story map for the developers or particular customers, then do that rather than cramming all the information into one document. You also need to be really clear about the problem that the user story map is trying to solve for your customers or users. Keep checking to make sure the story map leads to the right goal. Otherwise, you could potentially end up developing an excellent product which doesn't meet the user's needs. And finally, in determining the tools you use to create your user story map, think about the efficiency of the process, because all of the user stories on your map will need to end up eventually in your product backlog. This may lead to you feeling like you're going to have to do the same work twice or repeat work. So, consider using a software tool that can integrate user story maps, product backlogs, and sprint backlogs so that you can do the work once and represent the information in many different ways. User story maps are a fantastic tool. In many ways, we can think of it as an alternative to the work breakdown structure that project managers use in predictive projects. But my feeling is that for many predictive projects, user story maps could be a great tool for project management teams to use to help their clients, their customers, their sponsors to understand their project better. And maybe even the project teams will find them a useful way to understand and articulate the project. Please do give this video a like if you've enjoyed it or learned from it. I'll be making loads more great project management videos for you, so please do subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss any of them. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one.